Welcome everyone. Good morning and welcome to ERC's ordinary meeting for February. Good to see we have a fairly full gallery today on this wet day. We have one apology from the Mayor, who's unable to be here today. He's at a funeral of a family member, so here's an apology today. Do we have any other apologies? No? Yes, can we have a move and a second to accept the minutes of the Councillor Wells and Councillor Bellamy again. All in favour? Yeah, thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Could I ask everyone to be upstanding, please? A minute of silence as a mark of respect for those residents who have passed away during the previous month. Thank you. Do you have any declarations of material personal interest in the complex from anyone? No? Okay, we've got a couple of sets of minutes for confirmation. First one is the minutes of our ordinary council meeting on the 25th of January. Can I have a mover and a second to confirm those minutes are true and correct? Councillor Hodge, second Councillor Wilkes. All in favour? Carried. Any business arising from those minutes? No? Thank you.
The planning meeting was cancelled, so it's only one set. Any deputations, the planning meeting was cancelled.
Oh, the planning, that was the only one we had, because
Yeah,
we've
it's
got
only
like
got
two
one.
here. Okay, right, that's one. Okay, so there's no business arising for those minutes, so we go straight to our deputation. We have one deputation this morning from the Younger Borough Association regarding the notice of motion that's on our agenda today for the purchase of land containing the central section of Peterson Creek walking track. So I'll ask Ralph and his team to come forward to the desk and you can present your deputation.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor Cardew, and I acknowledge you as chairperson. Also acknowledge CEO Reinhardt, council officers and councillors. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on Peterson Creek again. I'm only going to say a few words, but I'll then introduce Paul Harris from On the Wallaby Lodge and Tours and James Botcher from FNQ Tours provide you with an appreciation of the economic benefits of the Peterson Creek walking track. We understand you're voting on a motion today regarding that. Brought up some data that was provided to us from Landcare. This is data from the counters, people counters near the Pender Street entrance. Before the 30th of November, the average through the Pender Street entrance was around 158 people per day. And bear in mind, that's not in peak time. This extrapolates out to about 57,000 people to the track each year. On or around the 30th of November, the developer closed the central section of the track, as is his right to do. In December, we had a cyclone, and the number of visitors crashed, as you can see. But in January, the numbers have remained low to less than half of the November figures. The numbers for January have crashed down to 71 people per day through the Pender Street entrance since the closure. Now, we're not exactly saying that it's completely because of the closure. There are probably other factors, but we do not know how much the effect of the closure has had. But any way you examine the numbers, we believe the closure of this section of the track has been significant. Again, in trying to obtain a sense of the impact of the closure on our community, I personally spoke with a number of volunteers from the Visitor Information Centre. I was told something like this, but many, if not most of the people who go to the Visitor Centre ask, where can they see a platypus? Where can they see a platypus? One volunteer told me that she believed that around 90% of people ask that question. I tried to clarify it with others, and another advised that, in her opinion, it was 70 to 85% of people asking where to see a platypus. Now, where can they be easily seen? The answer is simple: the Peterson Creek walking track. Tourists are coming to Yungaburra Township. Obviously, many of them are here to see our fauna and flora. Now, we've been Yungaburra Association, Yungaburra Landcare, of which there's members, Yungaburra Beautification, of which there's also members, have been imploring you to listen to our community and do something about saving the central section of the Peterson Creek walking track. We've been informed that instead of purchasing the full 20-metre strip, that Council's decision was only to offer the developer a 3-metre easement through his property. We cannot understand why Council would offer such a solution, and to us it seems ludicrous. If the easement went ahead, how would you ensure that the walking public kept inside the 3-metre easement? What if a visitor wandered and injured themselves on private land either side of the easement? Who would be responsible for a compensation claim? And even if that easement was extended to the full 20 metres, what are the issues regarding if someone were to be injured? Would that fall back on the owner of the easement? I don't know the answer to that question. But what about the viewing of the tree kangaroos and possums from a 3-metre easement? How would you, as councillors, it's just a rhetorical question, but how would you stop visitors to the area from invading the adjacent private land to get a closer view of our fauna? We consider the 3-metre offer was not very well thought through. Based on visitors' numbers, Peterson Creek is a boon to the entire Tablelands community, and we ask that you look to purchasing the entire 20-metre frontage to the creek as originally offered nearly 12 months ago. You have an opportunity to do something about this today, and we respectfully ask you to make the best decision on behalf of our Tablelands community now and for future generations. I'm just going to ask Paul Harris from On the Wallaby Tours to be able to speak about some of the economic impact on his business and the town. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks for having me all here today, much appreciated. I represent On the Wallaby Eco Lodge in Youngborough, and we also run Uncle Brian's tours out of Cairns, where we come up here. I've been pushing for Youngborough and the Atherton Tablelands for 20 years, been competing against Cape Tribulation constantly to try and say, you know, what a special place we have and how precious it is. So we take people to Cape Tribulation to see crocodiles and cassowaries. We bring people to Youngborough to find tree kangaroos and platypus. My motion forward would be that Youngborough is the platypus capital of Australia. Okay, and we've been giving that by the chance to use Peterson Creek constantly and have a 90% hit rate on seeing platypus there all the time. Some people come and book our tours generally just to come and see a platypus. They don't mind about the waterfalls, they don't mind about the rainforest, they just want to try and find this beautiful creature. And we've been lucky enough to be able to take them there along Peterson Creeks. We conduct 2 distinct tours a day, operating 7 days a week. We also run an overnight tour 4 days a week, both which include visits to Peterson Creek Walk. Our guests are enchanted by the opportunity to explore the creek, learn about the surrounding environment, and most importantly, witness the remarkable native wildlife. The Peterson Creek Walk is a vital component of our itineraries, and the chance to observe the elusive platypus is constantly highlighted by our guests as a memorable and cherished experience. Many choose to stay at our lodge and participate in our tours specifically for the opportunity to connect with nature and encounter these creatures. On average, our tours bring approximately 7,500 people of 18 to 30-year-olds that visit the area. And we also obviously visit the Peterson Creek Walk in that. Plus we have an additional 3,000 people staying in our lodge, which age from 25 to 80, just because we run an eco lodge, it's budget accommodation. We spread out to a huge environment and a huge age limit of people. With those numbers that I'm offering there, 7,500 people a year, I'm also representing Roddy Reese, who owns Cairns Adventure Group. He's also running around the same numbers as we are. So together we're running about 15,000 people. Our average departure price now is $149 a head. Less expenses, but the wealth that we're generating up here is spread from Milla through to Atherton. So I feel like we're contributing, I think it's somewhere around $300,000 a year into the community through these tours. The positive impact of local community is evident, and the preservation of this natural gem is crucial for sustaining and tourism operations and the uniqueness of Youngborough. Furthermore, we extend our commitment to education by running programs for schools in various parts of Australia and America. These educational initiatives include visits to the Peterson Creek Walk, offering students a hands-on experience to learn about the ecosystems and wildlife conservation. In light of our substantial contribution to both tourism and education region, we urge the Tablelands Regional Council to consider the long-term benefits of preserving the Peterson Creek Walk. We believe that safeguarding this natural wonder will not only enhance the local environment, but also contribute significant to the cultural and economic impact and well-being of the community. On a more personal note, my family is missing our walks and talks along the river. A place where locals meet for exercise and honoured. No, this is our backyard. No one had ever thought this would happen here. Please use our community tax dollars in a community treasure. Thanks for your attention in this matter.
Now ask James Botcher from FNQ Tours to speak.
Thank you very much for your time, council and community. Piggybacking on a lot of what Paul's just said, we've been running a business for nearly 7 years, fairly new operator. As a local who grew up in Cairns, extremely passionate about wildlife, and I really feel like wildlife tourism in the Tablelands is in its infancy. Spent many years in the Daintree tourism is obviously very strong. So in our early days of establishing FNQ Nature Tours, I thought we've got to get into the Tablelands. This area's got some of the biggest, oldest trees, most incredible crater lakes. There's so much going on up there that nobody knows about, because I feel like the Daintree is such a household name, and I've been spending a lot of time and effort trying to push Tablelands. After 7 years, we've now finally sort of got ourselves into a position where we're bringing huge multi-day, 5 days, 6 days, 8 days worth of sort of wildlife safari style tourism to the region. And it just happens to be that because of the incredible nature and wildlife at Peterson Creek, it's become such a focal point of what we're trying to offer. It's going to make it incredibly challenging, if not impossible, to support the Yungaburra community and the Tablelands community, because my job essentially is to find these encounters for our guests that are spending big dollars, that want to stay for several days, that support service stations, shopping centres, cafes, restaurants, hotels all over the community. We've got about 22 5-day tours scheduled for 2024, and I've got this massive, terrifying challenge of trying to figure out how to engage my guests with these incredible local features and endemic wildlife. And it just happens to be that over the last few years, Peterson Creek has become so valuable. We've now built our brand around how much is available along that sort of 100-metre section. It's actually mind-boggling how many mammals, as well as the monotremes, how many birds. I've got half of the wet tropics endemic birds that are just birds that are hanging out in that first 100 metres. It is just going to be almost impossible for us to continually support this community without having that tiny little section of Peterson Creek. Something to think about too is that platypus is definitely the really big one, and I completely agree with Paul Whitfield the same way. People would say to us, I'll give you all my money, just show me a platypus in the wild. And I think it's so important how much impact this one animal has on people. And you know what Peterson Creek has that other places don't, is that the animals there are habituated. They've been seeing people walk up and down the creek for so many years, and platypus will just sit there and it'll just go, hey, g'day, how you going? You know, good to see you. Spin around in the water and turn around and have a look at it. And people think, oh my God, all I've been reading in the books and all I've read online is that this is an impossible animal to find in the wild. Australians that have waited their whole lives to find these animals in the wild, and yet here they are standing next to a local expert guide who's very passionate, and boom, this animal just surfaces, and they think it's the most extraordinary thing in the world. And this is just, you know, what we can do on a 2 or 3 day tour on the Tablelands. I'm going to tell you that 90% of that connection that we have with our guests is occurring in that tiny little section of Peterson Creek. And that's all I want to say. Thank you very much.
I suppose just ask if there are any questions.
Hey, I have a question.
Sorry.
No question time?
No problem with you. Any questions from council?
Louder.
No, just to say thanks for the presentation, and look forward to the notice of motion.
Yes, thank you, Ralph. It's well done. There is no mayoral minute. So what I might suggest is we have a large gallery here. All seem to be focused on the Peterson Creek issue. So I'm wondering whether we bring item 14.1 forward. So we need to amend the standing orders.
Yeah, I move we suspend standing orders to bring it forward.
You have a second that? Then you all in favour? Okay. Okay, I just want to point out that if we start moving to an area where we're asking questions of the CEO with regards to monies, offers put to the property owner, then that goes into an area of confidentiality. And if that's the way the discussion leads, then we'll be closing the meeting and clearing the gallery so that we can deal with it, and then asking, once we've dealt with it, we'll get everybody back in. After that, we come back into the public forum and we'll decide on the matter then. Okay, so as long as everybody understands that, we'll move forward. Okay, so we'll move straight on to item 14.1.
So I move item 14.1, which is, rather than read it out, well, I will read it out because there may be people watching.
Excuse me, can you speak up? We can't hear you down the back.
Sure, but no, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the motion that I'm putting forward is that council resolve to offer to purchase that part of lot 3 of RP 703626 located at 1.3 Pender Street, Yungaburra, that is shown by the drawing considered at this meeting, we'll see that in a minute, being an area of approximately 2,000 square metres for $150,000 exclusive of applicable GST, and to delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power to negotiate, finalise and execute on behalf of the Council a contract of sale that contains suitable conditions, including conditions regarding survey work and planning approval. So that's the motion that's been put forward.
I will second the motion.
We have a seconder? Yep. Okay. Would anyone else like to talk to this?
Just a couple of comments, Mr. Chairman, just in relation to why an easement. An easement is the tenure that would support what council seeks to achieve, that is to have people moving through that area, and purpose of it. The easement, with an easement, the land remains in the ownership of the individual, as do the riparian rights. So the proposal at the moment takes away those riparian rights from the proposed 2 allotments, and also just want to comment that I might just ask our manager, executive manager planning to come forward. I don't believe that the plans ever included a 3rd allotment as such in that adjoining Peterson Creek. It was always 2 lots running to the creek.
Through the chair, yes, correct. Yeah, no, obviously this proposal was never envisioned as part of this approval, so we would have to go back and do a process of a reconfiguration of a lot if we were to acquire that in tenure to council, yes.
If council sought to use the acquisition of land, the Land Act to finalise this matter, an easement is what you would need to ask for. Anything beyond that may not succeed. However, that doesn't mean it can't be done by negotiation, councils. I'm not saying that, but the question was posed, why an easement? I'm explaining why an easement.
I'll speak to them. There are 2 elements from my perspective, apart from the ones that the CEO and the our Executive Officer Planning will be referring to, in relation to difficulties of title and all of that sort of stuff. It's all got to be underpinned by a decision of council, and then the officers go and do. Now, in this case, the motion which is there has 2 parts of it which need to be discussed. I need to put across to my fellow councillors. Part 1, the offer to purchase, changes us away from an easement to purchasing the land. At this stage, council hasn't considered the issue of the offer to purchase. It's considered negotiating for an easement. This is the next step. If council has approved to purchase, then the issue of an easement is history. The discussions are history. The second part of it relates to the figure of $150,000. Councillors will recall when an offer was made by Mr. McLeod in the middle of last year, he made an offer that he would give us that land if we waived the development charges of $146,900. And we, at our thinking at the time, was that if we commenced down the track of waiving development costs of that nature, then the very next developer and the very next developer and the very next developer, and perhaps some who just had their developments approved may come to us and say, we want ours varied as well, or dropped as well. So we resolved at that time not to respond to that kind of offer. But we didn't take up the broader nature of the offer put forward by Mr. McLeod at the time, and that was, what we could have said at the time was, no, we won't waive the development costs, you'll have to pay that to us, but we'll enter into a separate contract with you to buy that land, and then we'll give the development costs back to you. So we didn't do that. That was a stage two, if you like. From my perspective, we were not fast enough on our feet. We were looking at only one aspect. So the figure of $150,000 is not plucked out of nowhere. It's a rounding of the figure of $146,900, which was the initial figure that Mr. McLeod offered to us if we could, if he didn't have to pay, it would be a deferral. So the two outcomes of this is that if councillors pass it, it puts the issue of an easement to death. If councillors agree to pass it, and it commences the process of picking up the offer of $150,000 that Mr. McLeod made to us more than a year ago. No, about a year ago. Anyway, I don't have the exact date. That's that aspect of it. Part two is simply a procedural part of the motion, which says that once we've made this broad decision, then the CEO and his staff can get on with doing the negotiations as they would normally do in the normal course of events. When the negotiations are complete, an agreement has been reached or otherwise, then it would come back to council. But we have to take the first step, from my perspective, here to decide not to pursue the easement, but decide to purchase. And what better starting point is the initial offer that Mr. McLeod made to us as, in a different form as councillors some time ago. Part three should not be included here, and if you would take it out, Ms. Hunter, it's another matter. And finally, the last step is that, I think Mr. McLeod has identified to us that he doesn't want a 3-metre easement. And may I ask the CEO, because he was subject to as part of the negotiations.
It wasn't formalised, but that was my understanding, Councillor Clifton, that he would prefer that the land was given in fee simple. That's correct.
Thank you. And we know from the various deputations we've received from the community at different levels, and again today, that they have a clear picture in their mind that that part from the fence line, that's in the, most of you know it, to the creek should remain, should be in public hands. Whatever the title of that should be, it won't concern them so much, but it needs to be in public hands. That creates then a contiguous line along Peterson's Creek all the way down to the railway, the old railway cutting. So there is, the reality of Peterson Creek Walk is still there. In public hands, as the rest of it is already, in perpetuity into the future. So I support this motion really strongly to swing us away from the easement, and then the $150,000 as the basis of Mr. McLeod's offer. I recommend to councillors that there is no real alternative if we're going to meet community's expectations, as well as being sensible and practical about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just stand so everyone can hear, because it is hard to hear in here. I support the motion. I support it that the TRC takes the land in fee simple, if you want to call it, this freehold piece of land. I don't believe in easements. We've already had trouble with easements in some developers, where the owner of the easement said to another person who had rights, us, that they weren't going to allow us onto their easement. And then we had to get legal advice and say, well, we'll go this way, right? So I don't believe in an easement. I believe in taking it freehold. It'll be owned by the community forever. And it's us, it's you who owns it, okay? I was elected in 2020 to represent the people of the Tablelands, not just my division, but you as well. So it's for that reason that I believe that we offer the $150,000 to Mr. McLeod, and then the second part, of course, is the CEO then negotiate with him to then go down that path of it would be a reconfiguration of the lot, and it'll have its own title. And so I encourage people, the councillors, to really think about this and vote for this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillors?
Yeah, through the chair. Look, I was keen to pursue the right-of-way access initially. There's been some deputations that have raised some concerns which I hadn't thought of, so thank you, gentlemen. The only concern with this in its current format that I can see is if the 150 is not accepted, where do we go after that? At what point do we say, where is the value to this land? Where is the value to the community? I think it's important that we do get an outcome that does allow for the reopening of that walking track. It's critical to the area. I get that, but I'm just, you know, if that offer is rejected, we're after that. And the other thing is the costs associated with amending the current application. That's on top. So we start to increase the cost to the community by doing this. So we need to be mindful of that as well. So yeah, I don't know the way forward after that.
Any other councillors wish to talk?
So can I ask a question? So I'm assuming the track is closed now. I'm not sure. Okay, so who, if it's closed now and it's been on private land, who was responsible for the compensation if anyone made a claim? So it was never in our hands. And on top of that, the first time I seen the map, so we had 3 metres and now we've got how far wide? I'm not sure. Private map, so I can't see.
It's 20.
So we go 20 metres?
2,000 square metres in total. It's not a surveyed area, council. It's never been a survey plan prepared showing that as an allotment. So that's a mock-up that I've done, if you like, showing from the fence line to the bank of the creek, which is the current boundary of the allotment.
With approximately 20 metres?
In that order.
Yeah. Okay.
An area of about 2,000 square metres in total, I think.
Okay.
But it's not surveyed, so I can't answer that definitively.
Okay. That's all right. No, I have no, sorry, through the chair. So I have no problem with purchasing the land. I was wondering if they weren't agreeable on taking all that land, like can it be more than 3 metres but less than that? I don't know what the actual meterage width is, so length is fine, but the width. That's all I was just asking.
So that's fine. If you pick back to the resolution, if there was a proposal to relocate the fence line a little closer or something, I don't think that precludes that discussion, councillor. But that's not my understanding, and I said I don't wish to get into the in-confidence discussions that have been had with the landowner, between the landowner and I. The chairman made that clear at the start of the meeting what process is required for that. But a slight amendment around that fence line would be able to be accommodated within the resolution, I should think, subject to final survey.
If I may just add through the chair, that boundary pretty much reflects what was required as part of the development approval with regards to the establishment of a covenant over the riparian management. So it's essentially that area that we're just looking to procure.
Councillor Wilts?
Yeah, thanks very much, and thanks very much to the deputation and Rolfie. There's been a lot of discussion. I've spoken to planners about which way to go, and the CEO has briefed us on several occasions. My family home was about 150 metres from the start point of this walking track, and when I took my wife recently out there to walk along the creek, access as it stands at the moment was pretty ordinary, and it was very disheartening to see it in its current state. The argument of an easement versus purchase has occurred today
and we've had a lot of discussion about it. To me, and I've spoken to some of my fellow councillors about it, and one of them suggested to me that should we purchase this land, what we're doing is purchasing land that extends land that council currently controls, and that gives a riparian strip all the way from Pender Street through to Frawley's Pool that I used to swim in many years ago. So to me, as having a passion for the area and that walking track for many, many years, there's only one option available to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I know our Mayor is away because of tragic circumstances, but I know he was previously a divisional councillor for that area. He's not expressed anything to me, but has he expressed anything to you about his wishes or his feelings about it?
I don't think that's relevant. I think he's not here to speak for himself, and that's it.
Yeah, okay, fair point. So might we put that to bed then? Councillor?
Mr Mayor, Mr Deputy Mayor, if you're finished, I'll move the procedural motion that the vote be put.
We're going to come back into.
Okay, so Councillor Hodges put up a procedural motion for vote be put. So I didn't get a chance to speak, Councillor, thank you. So we will put the motion to the vote. Those in favour of Councillor Clifton's motion?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, it's Mr Acting Mayor. We're only voting on the procedural motion that the motion be put.
Oh, sorry,
you rightly pointed out that you have been, at this point, effectively denied a voice.
Yeah. Am I able to procedurally speak about the procedural motion?
You can speak about the procedural motion, yes.
I would like to recommend that Councillor Hodge withdraw it to enable, so that that would enable the Deputy Mayor to have his say.
Councillor Hodge?
I'm willing to do that, yes.
So you're going to withdraw that motion? Okay, that motion's withdrawn.
Yep.
Okay, back to the
Discussion.
back to the original. And does anybody else wish to speak before I have a say? No? I've got a couple of questions for our planning officer, if I could. If we were to purchase this land outright, as suggested in the motion, you've already indicated that would trigger another planning application from the developer. Is that right?
Through the chair, yeah, we need to separate that land from his land.
So
Process of reconfiguration.
can that be done as a variation to the existing application, or would a whole new application be required?
There's two options there. It can be done as a variation, or council can go and do that as the applicant themselves. The current applicant would need to initiate those proceedings around if they're proposing to change the current variation, whereby council can, at its own volition, go and do a reconfiguration of that with his consent. So
Just say that again.
there's two options, which you've correctly stated. So council can, with the owner's consent, put an application in to reconfigure that land, to take that land, or the current applicant, the current owner, can commence proceedings to vary his current approval to do that and transfer that land to council. So personally, I don't have a preference on either one of those. It's a procedural matter.
So as a matter of course, if the applicant chose to accept council's offer of purchase for that amount of money, he could then vary his existing application at probably a very small cost to get this other lot created. That's right. If he chose not to do that, but chose to accept the offer, then we council would have to make an application for reconsideration.
Correct, but any application that council makes needs to have the owner's consent to make the application on his land, so.
So basically, it all hinges on whether he accepts our offer. If we decide to go that way, it depends on whether he accepts that offer. Okay. The other question I had, if we were to go down the compulsory acquisition or acquisition path to create an easement, the developer would be entitled to a contribution for the value of that land?
Yeah, we've already canvassed that in records to council, Mr Chairman.
Yeah.
Twice.
That's right. So I just want to make those things clear that everyone's aware of that. Okay, so the developer would still be entitled to compensation, and that compensation would need to be, I understand, negotiated.
Correct, it has to be agreed at some point, or ultimately the land court determines what that compensation should be.
Yeah, okay. My other question is to the Yungaburra Land Care Association. If council were to obtain this parcel of land, either by easement or through purchase, would the Land Care Association be willing to enter into some sort of lease arrangement, a long-term lease arrangement, to undertake all the maintenance and care for that site?
I've already been doing it, for heaven's sake.
Can I just direct my question to Ralph, who has been present here?
Yeah, just ask David, please, to.
Yeah, if I can speak from the floor. The Land Care Group has been looking after that bit of land for the last 25 years without owning any legal rights to it. I don't see why that situation wouldn't continue.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I think no further discussion. Well, we have a motion up on the table at the moment, and it's been moved and seconded.
After. You're right, keep going.
It's been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion on the matter, we'll put it to the vote. Those in favour of Councillor Clifton's motion, 14.1, for the Peterson Creek, for the purchase of the Peterson Creek walking trail. Carried.
Is that unanimous? I'll move to resume standing orders.
Here we have a mover to resume standing orders for Councillor Hodge, seconded by Councillor Wilkes. All in favour? Thank you, carried. Move back.
Just thank you on behalf of the committee. Thank you.
Yeah, look, just read that.
Okay. What just give her a second for the other?
Yes.
Right, we'll move on to item 11.1, advisory committee meeting minutes. We have a move and a second officer's recommendation. Councillor Hodge moving, Councillor Wilkes seconding. Councillor Hodge.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm happy with what's in there. There's nothing really in the minutes that I really need to discuss. So I'm happy just to move things.
Councillor Building.
Yeah, Chair, just want to draw your attention to page 24 and in particular, an item from the Traffic Advisory Committee minutes, item 6.5. So back in 15th of March 22, is the date on it, it was discussed about reducing the speed limit from Topaz Road turnoff through into Malanda, going from 100 back to 80, and that was generally born out of the need for safety, increasing traffic, or buses in particular, pulling off on the side of the road, picking up school children, but also the developments happening in the area, the Fig Tree, Davies Road, Mundy Road subdivisions, which over time is increasing, are going to increase the traffic vehicles going through there. So I was under the understanding that it had been approved by the TAC, or the Traffic Advisory Committee, that it had been reduced, and we were just waiting to see new signs implemented. But now I see these figures, and it comes up that it's not going to go ahead. So I'm just concerned that we've gone backwards by not progressing it. And I think what I want to do from here is figure out a pathway forward to get a speed limit review completed again on that stretch of road to reflect what the increasing traffic will be. So there's a question in there. What?
If I may, through the chair. So this matter was brought to attention to the TTMI through the Traffic Advisory Committee, as you rightfully indicated. There may have been a misunderstanding in relation to TMI's support for that idea. So they need to follow a strict engineering process to do a traffic speed limit review assessment in accordance with their guidelines. And that needs to go to what they call the Speed Review Committee, which I need to confirm with DTMI if that was actually completely followed, that process, and if a recommendation from the Speed Management Committee was made. Ultimately, the decision lies with the director of DTMI, as it's a main road. But I would suggest that we request, and I don't think that requires a motion, but I think we just request a confirmation from TMI that they follow their own process, and if not, that they do, which will then give the Speed Management Committee an opportunity to formally review the speed limit review that was conducted, and the Speed Management Committee does include a representative, an officer, an engineer from Cleveland Regional Council. And then also seek to understand the formal decision made by the director, which we can then bring back to the Traffic Advisory Committee, and if then further advocacy or work has to be done, then we can make that decision at the time.
Thanks, Mark. I do have an outstanding email along those lines, but yeah, so I will keep a close eye on that one as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Wilkes?
Yeah, just as the chair of the Traffic Advisory Committee, just following on from what the GM has said, I'm fairly confident that the procedure that was outlined to us from DTMR was followed. I was disappointed in the fact that as part of the process of determining the speed through that area, that initially bus stops hadn't been taken into account, but the process was put on hold for some time until that could be examined as well. And I believe that a recommendation has come back, or a suggestion has come back, that DTMR will look at the placement of appropriate bus stops. But I'm in full agreement with Councillor Bilney's suggestion that this matter warrants further examination. Yeah, the development that's happening there and that's continuing to happen will only see an increase, not only in traffic, but general road users, push bikes, kids getting on the bus. So yeah, happy to follow the procedure as the GM has outlined. But yeah, it's a good suggestion, Dave.
Any further? Okay, nothing further, we'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to item 12.1, Turner Road Bridge. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Hodge. Seconded by Councillor Hayden. Mr. Hodge?
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm happy with the process. It's it's in line with our budget, so happy to move.
Anybody else want to talk to this? We have our project manager with us. I might just ask them if they could just give us a bit of a detail or just a bit of an overview of this report, please.
Yep, so Turner Road has a single lane bridge crossing Vine Creek. It's a two-span bridge, timber girders on concrete substructure. It's been load limited for some time, sort of sitting around 10 tonnes. After the last round of inspection, that came back at 0. Which was a bit concerning. So from that, we commenced the design for the replacement of the superstructure, which this project is to carry out. So it's replacement of the girders and a new deck, restoring a load limit, which will provide good access to the property owner on the other side of the creek, and also potentially to other services such as Ergon that may use that road to access their infrastructure. Yeah.
Any further councillors?
Through the chair, just a quick comment. I just recall reading somewhere that the council has an obligation to provide access to the residents anyway. So we are obliged to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah. So without this bridge, that resident doesn't have any access.
Any further? No further discussion? Let's do the vote. Those in favour, adopt this recommendation. Carried. Okay, we'll move on to item 12.2, the RFA program, management of tropical cyclone Jasper. Got a mover and second for this recommendation. Councillor Hodge moving and Councillor Wilkes second. Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, thanks very much. Before we go to the offices, it's for the DRFA program. See, our own industries have a contract. I think I may have asked this question before, but I'm pretty sure, confident that that money is, majority of that money comes back to us. It's not, even though we're doing a contract, DFRA actually funded. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's all I need.
Anyone else? No further discussion? Okay, we have a movement and second. Those in favour? Carried. Move on to item 12.3, which is Wright Creek Road renaming request. Have a mover and a seconder for office recommendation. Moved by Councillor Wilkes, seconded by Councillor Hodge. Councillor Wilkes.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, through the chair, this matter has come back before council at my request. Prior to the initial recommendation being brought before council, I was given information that I felt may have been relevant to the decision-making process. That information was given to me by some of the McMahon family. That I'm confident that the information provided has been well and truly examined, and I'm also confident that the recommendation as provided is the accurate one and correct. And I thank you very much, David, for the extra effort that I caused with respect to this matter.
Anyone else? Councillor Lodge?
Yes, look, I second the motion. I understand, you know, it's Whites Creek Road, it's a strange name, but you really need the proper evidence to be able to change a name of a road, and we just couldn't find that exact evidence to be able to do that. And so with that, and to change that, the road name, the work that all the property owners have to go through, you know, you really have to make sure you have substantive information, so therefore you can't change it.
Any further comment? No? Okay, we have a move and a second of the office recommendation. Those in favour? Carried. Item 12.4, Young Borough Men's Shed Kitchen Upgrade Community Project Request. Can I have a move and a second of the office recommendation? Moved by Councillor Clifton, seconded by Councillor Wilkes. Councillor Clifton.
I'd like to say to councillors that I really applaud the way Young Borough Men's Shed are getting on with doing what they're doing out there in that in the old hall. It's become a real hub of activity, a real hive of activity. They have all sorts of other small groups using it on a regular basis, and they're very active in doing what they're doing. And I would recommend that if you want to have a quite gentle yarn with a few old blokes and a beer on a Thursday afternoon about 4 o'clock, you'd be welcome down at the Young Borough Men's Shed. So I commend it to the councillors.
Any further? Councillor Wilkes?
Yeah, just very briefly, I don't know how long ago it was that we said to the men's shed, or said to the community, use it or lose it. I think they've come a long way since that point in time, and just have to echo Councillor Clifton's comments. Well done.
Any further, councillors? Okay, we have a move and a seconder. Those in favour? Carried. Okay, item 12.5, Younger Borough Lighting Project, Community Project Request. Have a move and a seconder. We have moved by Councillor Clifton, seconded by Councillor Wilkes. Councillor Clifton?
Again, the Young Borough community, Young Borough Beautification is a fantastic group of really hard-working people. They raise most of their money through running bingo. They're responsible for the flowers. They're really forward-looking. They envisage some of the big trees in the village to have these lighting professionally put up the trees, so that you may have seen versions of this kind of thing down in the Esplanade and Cairns, and it makes such a difference to the precinct. It just brings a sort of an enlightened atmosphere to it, and they're suggesting they can do it at no cost to the ratepayers of the TRC. So I commend them, and I commend the project as being really forward-looking, wonderful for the community.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comment? Okay. We have a mover and a seconder of the officer's recommendation. Those in favour? Carried. Item 12.6, Melander's Men's Shed, request for waiving of water and sewage connection fees. Do I have a mover and a seconder for Upper's recommendation? Councillor Milne, seconded by Councillor Councillor Milne.
Through the chair, this request has been made. The Melander Men's Shed of recent times have completed the building of a shed on the Bowls Club land. Part of that building does not have any toilet amenities, and we know that there's aged guys using that facility. They've got nowhere to go. So the request to waive these fees is based on putting sewage and water to the meter, I think it's called. Is that right, Bruce? Again, the Men's Shed do a lot of stuff for the Melander community, and like the Yungaburra Men's Shed, they would also welcome anyone to go and have a coffee and a biscuit if need be. So we have competing men's sheds. But yeah, look, it makes sense to support this support this request. I don't think it will create any precedent, in my view. There's not many community organisations out there actually building structures that incorporate toilets. So I would like support of council if possible.
You have a comment? I'll make a comment. Look, I support this 100%. The Melander Men's Shed group have been struggling for many years. I can remember when I was at a building certified with council, when the application first came through. They've scraped up every penny that they can get to get them to the stage where they are at the moment. I think a little bit of support from council at this end, I think it's a very worthy cause. I'm happy to support also. Okay, so
yes, thanks. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what Councillor Milne means, what they mentioned. They got nowhere to go. I'm not quite sure what he meant by that, but anyway, exactly what it means.
Thank you, Councillor. No further comment? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. We'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. Okay, item 12.7, the Reef Guardian Council funding agreement, execution of contracts, execution of contract, yeah. Okay, so we have a officer's recommendation there. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Milne, seconded by Councillor Hodge. Councillor Milne.
Yeah, through the chair. Look, the report's fairly self-explanatory, but I might get the tutor, the manager of environment and natural resources, just to give a bit of a background, perhaps how this grant funding became about, and the process that we went through to deliver or to find out the various projects that we're going to undertake.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Through the chair, this is a new funding program which the Reef Guardian Council's program activating local councils' reef action plans. We have been working very closely with the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority for quite a significant amount of time. As you know, we're one of the older participants in the Reef Guardian scheme. About 28% or so of the fresh water that goes to the reef actually comes from our catchments, from up here. So council has made a commitment to ensure that we take such actions as needed in order to protect the reef. This is one of those actions. This funding amounts to a total of $920,000 over 3 years, over 2 years actually at this point in time. And we have been invited to come up with projects which are of benefit for the reef, but also of direct benefit to our community. So we did a prioritization workshop with councillors in July, and a number of projects. I think we had nearly 15 projects we were looking at. We have narrowed it down to about 6. We have at the moment 6 projects which have gone through contract negotiation, and the contracts are on the point of being signed. These projects will result in improvement to the, not only to the water quality going to the reef, but also to the environment in the tablelands, as well as potentially some cost savings to council looking at infrastructure upgrades and in particular at solar panel installation. So I strongly urge council to support this.
Okay, any further discussion?
Oh, just to say one point, that the $920,000 over 2 years is fully funded by the garden.
That is correct, and make sure the chair, I would want to make the point that we're talking about 6 different projects. They're all distinct projects, and I think the highest one is $243,000. So there's 6 projects which we have an opportunity to fund.
Okay. Any further comment?
Just through the chair, just picking up, Tudor, your comments about the solar panel. You know, I've been banging on about that for the last 2 or 3 years. That 150,600, we've identified 5 sites, is that correct, for the heavy utilised infrastructure like your wastewater plants and that sort of stuff? Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct, and we intend to use the funding in 2 phases in order to put solar panels on those identified facilities. However, we won't stop here. We have an energy management plan project which is going separate to this funding, which has gone past stage 1, and we're looking at commencing stage 2, which will look at the feasibility of continuing the installation of solar panels on other selected facilities. We will be also looking at available grants and funding in order to do so beyond these grants.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything further? No? Okay, we have an officer's recommendation and a mover and a seconder. Look at the vote, all in favour? Okay. So I think we might adjourn for morning tea. Appropriate. Okay, thank you.
So just,
The electricity out.
Run over.
Right, good to go. Good. We will adjourn the meeting and go straight to item 13.1, financial statement for January 2024. They will move on to the officers' recommendation, Councillor Hodge, seconded by Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, thanks very much. Everything seems to be tracking to the revised budget, both revenue and expenditure. So I'm happy with everything, thanks.
Very quick, Councillor Preston.
I only have one question, which I think will have to be taken on notice. I'm sorry, but because I only just noticed it. But on page 119, orders raised for non-local suppliers. On page 19, at the very bottom line, it talks about Grundfos pumps. That there are no, and it says there are no local suppliers. I know through other dealings that I'm not sure that. I'd like to inquire about that.
Absolutely.
Have it
I'll take that one on notice and provide information.
I'm surprised there are no local Grundfos suppliers in the Tableland region, given the numbers of pumps that are here and the size of them.
Any further discussion, other councillors? No? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. Those in favour? Carried. Item 13.2, Miranda Pool agreement update. Have a mover and a seconder for the office recommendation, moved by Councillor Bilney, seconded by Councillor Hayes. Councillor Bilney?
Yep, through the chair. So I was in discussion with officers and the school late October, and during the course of those discussions, it was my view that the agreement with TRC was going to continue, and that an increasing contribution was being sought, based to assist with the ongoing costs associated with operating of the pool. I was acutely aware of the new laws pertaining to safety requirements relating to trained lifeguards, but I felt we were going to work through that. Officers did request information at that meeting to support a potential funding increase by TRC, and that's reflected in the minutes of the meeting, and even to current date today. That information, which was numbers of community members accessing the pool, as well as the financial cost to support a funding increase, has still not been forthcoming. So on face value, it appears that the school's made a difficult decision to close access to community. And really, at the end of the day, it's based upon the concerns of ensuring ongoing public safety, as well as concerns about the costs associated with making the facilities available to the general public. So that's the reason why it's been closed. TRC, in my view, has done everything in their power to come up with an acceptable agreement, and I would still strongly support future discussions with the school that allows for some sort of community use. What that looks like, how it's facilitated, I'm not sure, but you know, the first thing is we need to know what we're dealing with, and that's who's going through the doors. You know, there is a lot of learn to swim programs, and the swimming club use it, so that it is really well activated, but we don't understand how many community members are using it. So we need to get our heads around that, and then work towards a pathway forwards.
Councillor, any further discussion? Councillor Hodge?
Yeah, look, I agree exactly with Councillor Bilney. I guess to use the word, it's disappointing, maybe not the correct term, but we really haven't seen any numbers or any data on the numbers actual. So I would like to know, don't need to put this in any resolution, but I'd like, when the officers are going back negotiating with them, is for us to continue negotiations, we need proper data, and we want to know who's making that decision. Whether, at what level is that decision being made? So, whoever made that decision, did they have the authority to do so? And so that's all, I'll leave it at that.
Councillor, can I just get clarification on the decision? I'm not sure of the decision we're talking about.
Well, I'm on the assumption
Yep.
that everything is installed, and as far as the school goes, it's finished. Or am I correct? Correct.
So through the chair, in discussions with the school, they have provided correspondence noting that they have closed the pool due to their concerns. Council officers are happy to keep progressing the discussions, but as we've alluded to in the report, we do need an evidence-based approach to ask council to fund anything, and that's the same for this decision as well. So we will continue, if council wishes us to continue to negotiate an agreement with the state school, but yeah, it does have to be an evidence-based approach.
Well, I think that I'll leave it to Councillor Bilney if you need to just add on to the officer's recommendation that at the moment it just says the council will receive and note the report.
Correct.
So basically that's it. We just note it. We've got nowhere to go. Unless we need to add on to that to say that we would like more data and to continue the negotiations.
So if I could just through the chair, just to clarify a couple of things. So I just want to be clear that the school, the closure that we're talking about is related to general public access, not other community use. And I know the school would be very keen for us to just clarify that, because they do have agreements with other community groups who make use of the pool for specific things. So it's not closed completely to the community. It is the general public arrangement that council had with the pool. And then the other thing, just to the matter of data, is that the school have said that they are they're not confident with the data that is available, or there are gaps in the data that is available to them to actually present to us around the usage that's occurred. So they've already flagged that it's difficult for them to actually talk about the public, the data to support the use that has occurred in the past by general public. And kind of where we're stalled at the moment is that we need data to support a request from them. So if they have an amount of money, for example, that they think would be a workable amount of money to enable them to continue to offer the pool to the public, we need some substance behind that number to be able to then bring a report to council to consider. So that's kind of where it's
Particularly, I understand that. You know, there could be negotiations if it continues that, going back, I think it's in the report where it says when the pool was done, Form Beach Shire put funds into it, general public put funds into it to get that pool created. There may be negotiations where they may only open up to weekends to the general public, but that would be part of the negotiations. So, but if you just want to leave it, just receive and note the report, well, I'm fine.
I think it's sufficient, Councillor Hodge, just in terms of the how the information was conveyed to council. That's in the attachments. If you have a look through them.
Yeah, through the chair. Look, yeah, I don't want to amend anything for the noting and reporting. I think that's sufficient. The other thing is, I'm still on the Malanda Pool Advisory Committee. We're going to be meeting next Tuesday. I'm sure this is going to be a topic that's going to be brought up. So, you know, I think TRC will want to, or council will want to support the pool as best we can. So, you know, it's their asset. They're the decision makers, and we've got to abide by that current decision. If we can change that down the track, well, that's what we've got to work towards. Simple as that.
Councillor Clifton?
If, as they say, and as it's been indicated around the council table today, that or at previous times, that the numbers of a free community usage is very low, and they're the ones that are being excluded by the lack of a futuristic agreement. Thinking forward a little, what's the possibility of the next? We don't know who they've got agreements with. We don't know who they've got agreements with. It could be they've got an agreement with the Malanda Swimming Club that they're going to end in June. There could be they have something with another group that they're going to end in September. There's no coherency about it from my perspective. Why would they suddenly refuse our dollars, which, well, I think they're only 7.5, I'm not. Seven. When that represents no people, according to the figures that we have. But it seems to me we need to take this a long way further. We've been pilloried around in the press on the ABC radio over the last couple of days about a lack of a swimming pool strategy, where we got a dead one out at Mount Garnet. We've had the Ravenshoe people talking about what they haven't got, and now we're losing our pool in Malanda. It seems to me that we need to be a bit less limp about it, if I may use that term.
So through the chair, I can, so the school has certainly said that they are keen and intend to continue to work with those community groups. They have no concerns about that. I believe the issue with the general public, it's not about the number of people, because regardless of how many people come, you have to provide the service. So it's the costs for them associated with providing a service of having the pool open, and that's the lifeguards and all that sort of stuff, I imagine, regardless of the number of people that come in. So it's the risk and the cost of managing a public service that they've expressed concerns about. They have not expressed concerns, and in fact they have reiterated, and that's in the correspondence, their commitment to continuing to work with the various community groups. They just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I mean, just for clarification, did we discuss with them during our negotiation that whilst we may not have any budgetary allocations at the moment, that there may be the ability for us to actually fund periods of time where a lifeguard could be present as a part-time job for someone? Have discussed those things as well?
So, Councillor, through the chair, there was many discussions around potential solutions. One of the potential solutions, and it's noted in the minutes, is that allocation of potentially $80,000 to help support the ongoing commitment of opening the hours. So yes, those discussions have been had, not in great detail, because the school was to come back to us with more information.
Any further? I'll add the same. Look, I agree. I mean, we should be doing whatever we can to work with the Malanda school to keep this pool open to the public. As highlighted by Councillor Clifton, the topic of pools in our shire has been on the ABC radio for the last fortnight. We've only got 2 pools, one in Garnet and one in Atherton, and the arrangement that we did have for the one in Malanda. We all know that the one in Mount Garnet's inoperable, and we need to make some hard decisions on that. And the one in Malanda now appears that public will no longer have access to that one. So it's concerning. And I think that we do, even though this report is for receiving and noting of the decision of the Malanda School, and which we have to respect, I still think it's very important that our officers and us continue to negotiate with the Malanda School to see what sort of an arrangement we can come to get the public back into that pool. Regardless of numbers, it's a facility there, it's a good facility, well run, and I'd like to be set, open for everyone to be able to use. So, yes, let's continue with those negotiations. We've got Councillor Billy on the committee. We've got officers here who've got contacts, and I'm sure that you'll continue to do that. And if it has to come back to council again, where we need to increase our funding allocation to get it over the line, then I think it's a far cheaper option to do that than have to build another pool in Malanda for a public pool. So, anyway, that's my two box worth. Any further discussion on this? No. Okay, we have a move and a second officer's recommendation. Those in favour? Okay. Okay, we've dealt with notice of motion. There was only the one. We go straight to business without notice. Anybody have any business without notice? No? Okay, we'll move on to...
You want some?
Sorry? Oh.
You want some?
No,
No, no.
not from you.
Okay, we'll move straight on to item 16.1, confidential items. So can we have a move and a second that we move into confidential, please? Councillor Hodge, Councillor Wilkes.
Yep.
Those in favour? Yeah, okay.
No, I just leave it. Excuse me, just a moment, Mr. Chair. I have to organise discussion.
Okay, in regards to item 16.1, acquisition of land, lot 7, Elms Road, Wandekla. Can I have a move and a second up for his recommendation? Councillor Wilkes. Seconded by Councillor Clifton. Those in favour? Carried. Okay, there being no further business, our next council meeting is scheduled for Thursday, the 14th of March, 2 days before the election. So having said that, we'll declare the meeting closed.
Thank you.
Thank you.